If you're like me, you could definitely use some extra cash right now. So if you're sitting on old engagement jewelry that's been collecting dust in a drawer that you're like, why do I even still have this? I've got news for you. The experts at Worthy can help you turn that into cash. The cash you could probably use right now on your single parenting journey. It's risk-free, it's fast, literally no more than 2 weeks until you are joining one of the 80,000 people who have already had their jewelry turned into cash. Thousands of people have left verified 5-star reviews. This is a legit process that will make you feel so much lighter and your pockets a lot fuller. Trust me, these guys are the real deal. So all you need to do is visit worthy.com/moms, and I'm going to give you an extra $100 on me if your jewelry sells for over $1,500. That's worthy.com/moms, and I've got you covered. The top financial divorce question I hear most: am I going to survive financially? Divorce brings so many unknowns. Your home, the kids' school, travel, clubs, even health insurance. How will it all be covered? You deserve to know the answers and see exactly what your finances allow. That's why I've teamed up with certified divorce financial analyst Sylvia Guinan for a new segment of our Moving On Method podcast called Money and Moving On. Together, we are going to help you confidently plan your future and maintain the lifestyle you've worked so hard to build. As a next step, click the link in show notes to get your free guide, Navigating Divorce, and consider it a first step to clarity and confidence with your finances. The use of the CDFA designation does not permit Wells Fargo advisors or its financial advisors to provide legal advice, nor is it meant to imply that the firm or its associates are acting as experts in the field. Wells Fargo Advisors is a trade name used by Wells Fargo Clearing Services, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer, and non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo and Company. It's back, Money and Moving On, because let's face it, we all need help with money as we're moving on. You met Sylvia Guinan last time, our in-house certified divorce financial analyst who is joining us monthly to give you the tips that you need in order to thrive as a single parent, moving on with a new budget, understanding more things about your finances than you ever had to understand before. And so today we're going to be talking about just that. How do you set yourself up again after divorce to survive and thrive financially? Sylvia, it's great to have you back again.
It's such a pleasure to be here always.
I'm learning so much through this. I know our listeners are learning so much through this. I think this adds value in so many ways. And I'm just honored to be able to come together with you to share all this information. I know last time we spoke about really like what I called financial advice for dummies. Me being the dummy, because I was the dummy who had no clue what I needed to know financially going through my own divorce, but really breaking down what to ask your attorney, what common financial terms are going to be used that we need to understand, right? The financial affidavit, what to do about the house. Now, let's assume we've done all that. We are now in our single parent world trying to adjust to a new lifestyle, taking care of kids on our own, making little changes here and there to survive on the money we now have or are hoping to have. We need to talk about how to recreate the budget, right? Maybe this person never had a budget before, and now they do need to have a budget, and this is brand new for them. And so I know you help women do this all the time in terms of manage their finances and understand what's coming and how to live best with what they've got. But maybe for our listeners today, we can sort of prioritize for them what they need to consider when they are now working within a new budget.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And I think, of course, everyone's budget is going to be a little bit different, right? It's going to
Truth.
depend on your settlement and what you got. But the budget is the key, right? Because it doesn't matter how much you got or how little you got. Like if you're overspending, you're overspending, right? If you're underspending, then that's, maybe you don't need to be underspending that much. So with our team, like, I think it's so important. We work with our clients. Like, I think it's so important to actually have a budget. And, especially when you're recently out of a divorce, it takes a couple of months, quarters, maybe even a year to really understand what the new norm is like, right? So it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But we, within our team, we have like a budget that we prepared. You kind of fill it in and it all adds it all up for you.
I love that.
So there's a way that you can kind of stay on top of it. And we actually have two columns. We have one column that's kind of lists everything and it's where you are today. And then the other one, call it almost like your post-divorce, or we call it at retirement because it's kind of like you retired from that
Yeah.
marriage. And you can look side by side and it's really kind of nice because it adds it up for you dynamically. So this is what, if you spent, I don't know, a couple of $100s a month on dinners, right? We plug it into the new budget and see what it looks like. And, can we still do that or should we spend a little bit less on dinner?
That's where all that fear comes in.
It
You know,
does.
it's like, I don't want my lifestyle to change, but it has to change. And people either go into like complete freeze
Mhm.
and just do nothing, don't spend anything and save everything just in case. Or I often find people come to the table with like a lack mindset, right? Like I don't have enough, but I'm going to keep spending for fear that it's all going to go away one day. And that's where the budget's really helpful. I am not a budgeter. I am not good at it. And I always like to tell people not to be scared of the B word. It doesn't mean you're on a budget now because you're poor and have no money. A budget is your financial boundaries. Just like you set boundaries with your ex on how to communicate now that you're divorced, you need some for yourself to understand what you're going to have left at the end of each month.
Absolutely. And to see where everything's going, right? Because sometimes we don't even realize we just, especially when it's so easy to put it on a credit card, you're just putting the credit card. And how many times you get that bill and you're like, oh, wait, this cannot
Guilty.
be right. Right. And you're looking like, oh, yeah, that was me.
Guilty.
That was
Yeah.
me. So, but the key is, right, is having a good budget. But also, I think what I think is like the most important thing is like you can have the best budget, but then you look at it against cash flow and what you have coming in, and you look at it against your investments. And I call it creating a sense of clarity. So we love sitting, with our clients and we can show side by side, like, okay, so you continue to spend on this path, right? You might potentially run out of money, X years down the line, right? But if you just trim it up a little bit, right? Look, it could last you well into your 90s, So there's ways that we can actually, and I call it creating a sense of control, showing you that you're in control, right?
Mhm.
Like, here's your choices on how you spend. We're not telling you not to spend, but like it's going to be what's most important to you. Is it most important to you to overspend a little bit now, but maybe run out a little bit later? Or is it more important to kind of have a nice balanced lifestyle now
Yeah.
and have it last for you and your
Yeah.
children?
Yeah. That lasting piece is huge. I think, you get it and you have it and you're scared it's going to go away. So you spend it, but then you're making it go away anyway. So if someone were listening to this and wanted to sit down and really like, okay, let me put myself on a budget, what is the first thing to consider besides the overall number that you're working with?
It's to just not be afraid, right? There's an expression, I think Jewel, the singer, says, light is the darkness most feared, right? So many times we're just so afraid to see it. We don't even want to know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So just don't be afraid of it, right? It's
Okay.
just where you are today. You can always change it. And I would say, to prepare yourself to do the budget, like keep a little folder. And as you're getting your statements, just throw them all in a folder so that you're not sitting there, fussing and looking around and running from room to room to try to figure out what that expense is.
Uh-huh.
It'll give you more peace of mind if you have it kind of most of it already there and you could just plug in some numbers and see what's happening.
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, at least I would think the first thing you got to think about is either, your home or wherever you're living, what that expense is, right? Because you gotta pay that bill. So the mortgage or the rent. Am I correct in that being the
Absolutely.
first priority?
Shelter and food.
Okay. Shelter and food, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those come first. Now what?
Then I think it's self-care, right? Like it's your medical stuff. And if you need a therapist, to stay healthy during the, post-transition stage, if the kids need someone, I think that's.
Do you know how many women are first gonna put everything for the kids,
Mhm.
what the kids need, and then save themselves for last? I mean, I am that woman. Like,
Mhm.
and I remember my mom being like, when she was divorced, her dad had to help her out financially, and she would just say, "I'm gonna give it all to you so you can have what you need." And I'd be like, "No, like you need to take care of yourself too."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and by the way, I think I do the same thing too. I'm still responsible for doing that, but I'm trying to shift that more. And it's funny, my boyfriend actually, brought it up to me, he's like, I don't know that you're definitely teaching them the best lesson because the reality is God forbid that they have to go through a divorce, but you also wanted to teach them as a parent that it is okay to take care of yourself, right?
It's really good.
You know,
It's the
if your
oxygen
if your
mask.
child was telling you, I'm not spending anything on myself, I'm doing anything for my kid, you'd be like, oh, no, 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 honey, you're not doing it the right way.
Right, for
Right.
sure. And it is that whole oxygen mask theory. Like
Mhm.
you have to put it on yourself before you can take care of anybody else. And if that means you're hour away from the kids getting a manicure so you can breathe and think clearly,
Do
budget
it.
for that. Yeah.
It's the best thing that you can
Thank
do.
you for giving us this permission, guys. Self-care.
Of course, happy nails, happy moms.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, also when you think of running a corporation, or if you ever go into a restaurant, or you go into whatever your if you go to Pilates or whatever your studio, and there's a certain vibe, right? Like it just feels good and it's always run efficiently and everyone's happy. The same thing is in your household, and it all stems from the top, right?
Mhm.
So if you are sacrificing and you're living like, without taking care of yourself and nothing's for you and your cup is empty, like eventually that's going to trickle down to the children. So don't feel that you're being selfish, right? Like I think take care of yourself.
Just that's what I talked about, the lack mindset, the scarcity mindset. Like, and this is where it really starts to affect the kids. Like, oh, we can't buy that now because mommy and daddy got divorced. Daddy didn't give mommy enough money. Like that is never the vibe.
No.
That will not feel like the Pilates studio at
Right.
all.
Right. And and I used to love to even teach my kids, right? Which I do think is important. Like, right, like, we live in Connecticut and we live by the water, and I'd always walk them down to the water, and we always look at the sunsets from our view right on the water, and I'd always say like, this is like the biggest gift that we have, like, right? Money and things and stuff can come and go, but look at the beauty. Like there's so much in life that you can do that you don't even have to spend money. Like this is free to everybody. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
how much or how little you have, it's here for everybody.
Tell that to the kid who wants a new Labubu every week. No, kidding. Not kidding. Okay, so food and shelter, number one,
Mhm.
self care. To include, I would imagine, what you've already been doing in the marriage, right? Not saying now that you're getting divorced, you need to suddenly start buying memberships to different spas and sound bath rituals, like just maintaining what you've got. Is that what you would advise?
That's what I would advise, and look at it within your budget, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to make decisions,
Yeah.
right? And that's why I like doing the budgets as it is today, and then the budget at what I call retirement, meaning retirement from that marriage and starting your new life, right? Like, and you can decide, right?
Mhm.
You could just if the nails are more important than, whatever, getting the new pair of jeans, do the nails, right?
Mhm.
Do the nails.
That's true. That's a good point. So, would you consider a dinner with girlfriends in the self-care piece of this? Or is that, because I know on the financial affidavit, there's the entertainment piece.
Mhm.
Where would you put in, or where would you budget for that part of like having a social life?
Yeah, that's your dining out. That's your entertainment, right? And it's also honestly your self
It
care, right? Because
is.
our friends
It
are our
goes hand
therapists,
in
right?
hand for
Yes.
sure.
Um, so yeah, so if it's in the budget, and sometimes you don't have to go out for again, depending everyone's budget's different. But if you can't go out for a full dinner, you can go out for happy hour and
True.
have cocktails and have a nap, right? There's always ways around it. And I think again, it's always how we look at it, right? Like you said, if you look at it from lack, it's going to feel like lack. If you find creative ways to make it fun, right? There's ways that you can kind of keep a lot of what you did. You just do it a little bit differently.
I'm going to go ahead and file the group chat when the dinner makes it out of the group chat as self-care,
Mhm.
because I don't think there's anything more healing or restorative for a mom going through divorce than having that moment with her village. And also being really honest with your friends about your financial situation. That was so hard for me. I was the first in my group to get divorced. All of my friends are married to wonderful providers. And here I am like, see you guys after. I'll just stop by when you're getting the check, because it was hard. And it was my friends who were like, no, like, let's do what you can do. So that shame and fear piece needs
Yeah.
to.
And what you said just now, right? I mean, I give you so much credit. I can't believe you had those conversations with your friends because most people don't, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about it. I mean, I've even done presentations on, and I call it conversations because, we talk to our friends about everything. We talk to our friends about our clothes, what we found, our beauty regimen, our Botox, our sex life. I mean, everything, but you would never talk about your finances
Yes.
ever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the loneliest space that we all kind of sit in.
Yeah. And then I made the other mistake of, and we're going to talk about red flags, but I made the other mistake of having too much pride and probably overextending myself more than I should in the beginning, because I wasn't budgeting and I didn't have a picture of what I had. I was just kind of winging it. And I would get to the end of the month and like not sleep. Like, oh my God, am I going to be able to pay my landlord? Like, because I said yes to every birthday dinner and because I contributed to every group gift and because, and it was also not the right thing to do. That honesty really helped me because I was struggling.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's a subconscious way of prolonging the pain that things have changed, right? So it's
That's a
a
good
little
point.
bit easier to just kind of keep going about. But the sad part is then you hit that wall and you're like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain now because I don't know how I'm going to
Yeah.
pay something.
That was this. Ugh, I still feel it in my
That
body.
feeling, yeah.
Okay, so self-care, house, shelter, food, self-care. Now we got to talk about the kids' expenses.
Hmm.
Kids are expensive. I thought mine was expensive at 2 years old, and now she's going to be 11, and it's a whole different ballgame. So, what do we do about that? Would that be next on your list for
That
budgeting?
would be next on the list. Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, you don't want to say to the kids, we can't afford it now, right? But you do want to kind of show that sometimes lifestyles change because it could happen to them too, right? Their lifestyle could change.
Mhm.
And, and that's hopefully an area that also, like, if you can't pay for the dance lessons or you can't pay for something. I mean, that's kind of like where you hope you've had some kind of an amicable relationship where you can go back to your former spouse and say, "This is not for me," right? Because the reality is it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's for your child. So hopefully there is a way to do that. And sometimes you don't know. I mean, I guess you can probably even call whatever the organization the studio is and share where you are and share what you can participate in terms of payment at that particular time.
One of my favorite things to see, and I know sometimes it's done not by choice, but really more out of need, is when a mom will, if she wasn't employed before the divorce, will work somewhere the kids are affiliated to help lessen the burden, lessen the cost.
Mhm.
I know divorced moms who have become teachers' assistants in the school that their kids go to if it's a private school and they need to lessen that cost or work at the summer camp to get that part for free. If that's an option available to you, I highly recommend it. At the time that I was separating, I I was collaborating with different brands and just anything I could to, like, be able to give my daughter certain experiences at a lesser cost or no extra cost because that was really important to me. So, finding a way might feel hard, but it's going to feel so good when you figure that part out.
I was gonna say, doesn't it even feel better than
This
the traditional way? I mean, when you are able to figure it out, it just feels like
When
you
I made it to the 30th or 31st every month with some money left in my bank account, I was like, "Woo, I did it again." Really empowering, and that empowerment builds once you move away from the fear.
it does, it does. And just like, some people say, "Well, I can't save," right? Like, I'm barely making it. But the reality is, even if you could save a little bit, just to see that just start to build, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Over time, it really does build, and just to have a safety net is so important.
Well, let's talk about building that because I wanted to get into red flags that you see, mistakes, huge mistakes women make now that the
Mhm.
divorce is done and they have X amount of dollars. Obviously, mistake number one is not budgeting, but they may have now some sort of lump sum of money,
Mhm.
and it may feel like more money to them than they've ever had in their lives. And they're like, I'm good. I've got all that in the bank. But money flows like water these days, especially with children. So, what are some mistakes you see women make with the money they do receive?
I see the biggest mistake I see, and it seems so obvious, but it's really not, right? Is when somebody's getting alimony, right?
Mhm.
So 5 years of alimony, 7 years, 10 years of alimony. I always, when I'm working with someone, say, we need to start figuring out now how we're going to replace that income, right? So I want you to think about what you want to do, what you're going to do,
That's huge.
isn't it?
Yes.
Because it is kind of that relief.
We
That
can't
there's a
just sit
short
here and
term.
pretend like
It's
that
almost
that
like
day is never going to come because
Oh, it's almost like if you have a headache, you take Advil. It helps for a little bit, but right, what's
right.
what's the root cause of the headache?
Right. That's
Right.
really see, this is why you guys need to consider working with somebody like Sylvia. Like I there's a lot of therapy involved here. Like it's like money and therapy. It's so helpful to have this kind of information. And we were just talking offline about investing.
Mhm.
That's a big scary word for somebody who's now has to manage their own money for the first time on their own. Is it worth even just the littlest bit taking if you got lump sum alimony or you were awarded a portion of the sale of the house, is it worth taking that money and putting it somewhere else?
Oh, absolutely. You want your money growing, right? Imagine if your money's not growing, I'm sure we all heard a couple years ago, inflation was at 9%. Like, you're losing money. Like, even if you have it in cash, even though it doesn't feel like you're losing money, you're losing buying power, right? So it's so important to keep that money growing. And now more than ever, right? As women, right? I mean, longevity is real.
Yeah.
I mean, and we are living a long time.
Right, especially because we're self-caring now,
We're
guys.
self-caring.
Yeah.
And,
Sylvia gave us permission.
like, so glad I could do that. But we're living so much longer that if you're technically retiring, I don't know, at 60, probabilities are that you're going to live to at least 80, and then if you make it past, I think 82, like there's a 70% chance you're going to live to like 90, right? Like that's 40 years of paying yourself. And if you have all that money in cash or saving and you're not growing it, like you're going to run out of money. It doesn't even matter how much you have, like you're going to run out.
So would you say, well, I guess the red flag is sitting on it, not doing anything with it. For someone who is scared of the way the stock market can change or turn, or they don't have enough information about the Roth IRAs or anything we talked about last time, is it scarier to let it sit or to invest it and trust the market?
It's scarier to let it sit.
Okay.
Because you know what? If when we're working, I can only speak of our practice, but like everybody's investment's different, right? Your investment is going to be different than Sally's or than Mary's, and it all depends on how much risk you're comfortable taking. It also depends on how much liquidity you need. It also depends on what your goals are, what your plans are. So it's all like very customized, right? And if you're not comfortable taking risk, right, then we're going to build a portfolio that is going to get you some growth, but it's going to let you sleep at night, hopefully, right? You're not going to stay up at night. And then, we also educate clients, right? Yes, the markets go up and down, and they truly can be very volatile. But the reality is, right, if you're buying quality, I don't know if you've ever looked at how you see those crazy charts, but yes, it does go down, but it eventually goes up. So the
Right.
one thing you need is time, right?
Right.
You need time, you need quality investments, and you need allocation. If you have those things, right, and you keep some cash, I always keep like a reserve, right, like a safety reserve for my clients. So if we head into one of those markets, you have time to
Okay, I was
recover.
going to ask about that. So let's say we are dealing with someone who is not down the road of investing in markets and all that, but they are living off of this budget and they have some extra money every month.
Mhm.
Would it be better to just sit with it and save it for next month, or say, oh, I've got a couple extra dollars, let me put it here? What would that here be? Do I save it for a rainy day? Do I drop it into a college fund for my kids? Like what would be your best advice there?
Well, that's kind of a great question, a loaded question, right? It depends on what they have, what they received for assets, what they have, right? So, I would say that, definitely the safest way to do it is just to put it in an investment account and kind of invest it, because if you need to access it, you can.
Hmm.
If you didn't get a lot of retirement, it might be a nice way for you to, if you have a little bit of earned income, you have to have some earned income to save in retirement, but to put a little bit for yourself in retirement. But whatever it is, I think that the whole thing is about just like you pay your bills, right? Like, you're gonna pay your lights because you wanna keep your lights on, like, just to think of it that it's paying yourself. It's paying yourself and getting yourself used to that, and a lot of the easiest ways to do it too is to set up, an automatic transfer. So it just goes out automatically if you want it to go out the 15th of every month.
I started doing that. I really had to, because I'll tell you, I would say to myself, yeah, this I'll keep putting X amount of dollars away for my daughter each
Mhm.
month. And then it had to be taken out of my account because I was never going to do it. Or I would find like, I would talk myself out of it. Like, but I really want to get these shoes. I could do it next month. I'll do double next month. Right. And then it
Right.
never
It
happens.
never happens. It doesn't. Or you always get that other, you think you always get that little surprise expense that you weren't expecting anyway, and you keep putting it off. And the problem is that we keep putting it off. But somehow if we have it taken out, we figure it out.
Yeah. Surprise expenses are really scary.
They are.
I was shout out to the woman who does my nails. We were talking the other day, and she left. She had to leave her job. She was let go from her job, and she was like, I literally I was down to like $19 in my bank account. She has two kids, and she went and bought a scratch off and ended up winning $100. And she was like, some might have said that was a stupid idea, but I look at it as an investment. I trusted in the scratch off and I got $100. That's not my financial advice, but she was like, my first instinct was to go spend it on whatever I can, what needed spending. But I'm like, something told me I need to hang on to that because clearly we're in a tough time right now. And that really resonated with me. Like, I always think about, I don't know, I've seen it on like shows or probably my mom's sideways financial advice. You need a certain amount of money saved. Like they say, like 3 months or 6 months of money. Is that what it is?
That's what it is. So conservatively, they say 3 months. I always say like 6 months is even better, right?
Hmm.
Just have it. And now, for some reason, a lot of the banks and there's a lot of things that you can put it in, even if it's going to be your cash, where you could still, if you put it in the money market, you can earn some interesting income on it. So it could be growing. But yeah, you want to have it because if life surprises you, which sometimes it does, you want to be ready.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so many red flags, and I think it's just we'll say it just to say it. Don't treat all that money that you've now gotten in your divorce as a ticket to ride. Like it's just not worth it. I think we all want to give the appearance after a divorce of like we're fine, we're good. Like I'm still shopping, I'm still doing this and that. That's a very short term stupid choice, for lack of a better word.
It is. And I think it's also how you position it, right? Like, you don't the way you said it to close friends, I think is beautiful. And I think that, it's just again how you share it and what you say and what you do. But I think it is you do have to get used to adjusting to your and this I think the sooner you adjust to the real norm and you admit it, the sooner your healing process really kind of starts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Something I really wanted to bring up too. Um, I mean, it was years before I untangled all of this, by the way, but like the the stuff when, I was married to my ex, like the Netflix account,
Mm-hmm.
the I don't know, like the streaming services, the
Hmm.
the DoorDash app, like Instacart fees, like all of these things that either one of us assumed in the time that we were married, like you have to consider these too. Like we're living in the day and age of like you're paying for all these apps. Some of them might have been or made more sense when you were married and now you're not.
Right.
Um, do you recommend that people maybe like kind of clean up that invisible monthly spend that they've got going on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still struggling with it,
Yes.
right? Like I feel like I have to block a day to do it because it takes so long.
Another thing I say I'm always going to do.
Right, me too. No, and the reality is sometimes I think, what's easier is to just change the credit card number because some of these, like, I keep getting this Google bill. I don't even know what it is, right? And it's expensive, and I call and I can't get to
Yeah.
anybody, and then I go online and I can't get an answer, and then I get frustrated and I give up. Right?
Yes, and it's so funny because, like, now that I'm saying it, I think of all the times I say to myself, "I'm gonna download whatever that app is to help me clean up all my, like, subscriptions,"
Yes.
and I never do it. I need to do it.
All right.
Holding us
Let's
all
make it a
accountable.
challenge. Let's
Yeah,
make it a challenge.
check in with me tomorrow.
Yes. Well, maybe
Probably
next
won't have
or
done it.
how about next
And then,
month?
yeah,
We go
next one.
find us.
Yeah, exactly. Now lastly, with a new budget comes living within that and your kids seeing that. What are some practical ways to talk to the kids about the changing financial situation or the importance of living within a budget without blaming the divorce on it?
Right. I think you kind of explained, right? The reality is, we took this one pot of money and now we've divided it in two, right? So we, as a family, we still have the same amount of money, except, one half is here and the other half is on the other side. And so we just have to learn how to work with our half, right?
I love that. You can make it like a cute, teachable experience. I used to be a teacher, so I always visualization, right, for kids. Like, here is the big pot of money, and we're just splitting it in half. I love that as a tangible learning tool. But I also think it's so important to be careful because words matter.
They
You
do.
know, sorry, can't throw a toy in Target into the cart at Target anymore because mommy can't afford it because we're divorced now. Your money mindset is ultimately going to burden them if it's not a positive one.
Yeah. But I think also doing things just to show them too, right? That maybe they're not getting like, every single thing that they want. But like, we always used to adopt a family, child and family services is what we have in Connecticut.
Mhm.
And it was like the most meaningful thing. So I have three kids and, we'd go and we'd shop and all of us would want to cry and they were little. But, some of the things that these kids want are like gloves, right? Or a scarf or socks. One of them asked for, mittens for her mom because her mom's hands are always cold. Like,
Oh my
like it
god.
was just like heartbreaking. So I think, you can also like in subtle little ways,
Ugh,
expose your kids to the fact that, even though you're not getting like, the seven Legos that you want, sets of Legos, you're getting two, right? But you don't have to ask for gloves for Christmas, right? Because that's all a given. There's certain things that
Yeah.
are just a given.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, this could be a whole separate conversation, but kids, when they don't get what they want, will often stomp their feet and complain because they don't have the logical reasoning skills that we do. And they'll say something like, "It's not fair." And you're going to feel like absolute garbage that it's not fair, right? And then you can have a whole conversation. I'll show you what fair is, but you don't want to say it like that.
Right.
But the follow-up to that is validation. I'm just putting this out there. You probably already know this because this does come up a lot in my questions with clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, well, it's really unfair that I had to get divorced, yet here we are. It's sometimes changes feel unfair, but let's count our blessings and think about all the things we do have that we can feel grateful for. And a reminder that your kids are just trying to adjust, not trying to make you feel bad because the other parent spends more money or has more money or is the fun parent, you know, that type of thing.
And don't forget, they're smart. They're probing. They want to know too, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're pushing your buttons. But you know, the other thing that I would do since they were little, when we went through some big changes, is I would say, okay, today we're going to the Disney store, right? And you can look at whatever you want, you can hold it, you can touch it, you can pick your favorites, but we're not leaving with anything today, right? But what we're going to do is figure out a list, and we're going to go back, and you're going to write and tell me how you're going to earn that toy,
Yep.
right? And teaching them to earn it.
Yes.
And
Great lessons to be taught with a changing financial situations. It
right?
doesn't all have to be negative.
No.
I used to take Bella to the pet store, Petco,
Uh-huh.
and tell her it was the zoo because she was like,
Oh,
she was 2, and she always had every week, "Can we go to the zoo?" I'm like, "Yeah," and we were just looking at the fishies.
so cute. Oh, I love that's brilliant.
Yeah, but you can't get away with that for
No,
too
not
long.
anymore. No, no, yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, I think that there's always ways, and I would always too. I think teaching the kids too that things don't make us happy, right? Like so, a lot of times when they would get upset they couldn't get something, I'm like, I'm not saying that you can't ever have it. I'm just saying right now we're not going to get it. We're going to earn it.
Mhm.
But then I would always say just remember when you do get it, I promise you'll play with it for 3 days, 5 days a week, but then eventually you're going to get bored,
Mhm.
right? Like so, just learn that like things don't make you happy.
Right.
They satisfy us short term, but it's not long term. And then I always try to like get them to really appreciate just like the beautiful things, like nature, like look outside. Like I can't tell you now. It's so funny. Some of them, all 3 of mine are in college, and my youngest just went off 2 weeks ago. But they'll call me and be like, "Oh," I was like, I just had to call your mom. I just went on the most beautiful walk along the water and saw the most beautiful sunset. And did you see your picture? And I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't even see. Click, let me look." And we look and we talk about it. So, but it's just teaching them because that is the beauty.
That is the beauty. You know, a new budget doesn't have to be a burden.
It
It
does.
really is just, again, a boundary in your new life that will benefit you in the long term and also teach your kids some really valuable lessons. Another great and emotional episode, just thinking back to my own situation and how hard we really do try to make it all work for our kids. It's a beautiful thing, and so is your financial knowledge. If you need more support in your financial endeavors as you divorce, make sure to check the show notes. We have really helpful links for you, downloadable resources that can probably make this process a little easier. And then if you want to take things one step further, get a little more serious, reach out to someone like Sylvia, if not Sylvia herself. It will do you so much good in the long term. Sylvia, thank you again for another episode together that really brought so much value. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on our Moving On Methods segment of Money and Moving On.